Hello, hello. This is Yuri of Moving Sales Professionals and Let's Talk Moving podcast. And with me today, I have Marc Poe, a regional director for Advantage Solutions, a marketing IT company focusing on marketing strategies and people development. On a side note, Marc and I used to work as sales reps together for a moving company in Maryland. So we certainly were dealing with day-to-day operations and issues that moving companies have and sales and everything else you can imagine that every one of you guys deal with consistently. So we certainly know what we're talking about, and we're working for one specific company in Maryland, so we are familiar with the market and everything else that we were dealing with. So, Marc, how do you get through to people, employees, and clients in your current line of work?
That's a great question, man. And thanks for having me. I want to say that.
Oh,
It's good
thanks.
connecting with you again. It's been a while. But it's difficult because everyone's different. If you go from Baltimore to DC to Northern Virginia to upwards of near Delaware, that's a different clientele and different personalities, different cultures, and everywhere you go. So you have to take a look at where you are and be respectful and understand that everyone may not come from the same background. And so you work within the parameters that you have, and you just have to be straightforward and honest. Like my key is, look, this is what we're going to. This is our goal. This is how we get there. All right. So you need to go A, B, C, D, E. Well, somebody else may need to go A, B. Okay, cool. We're going to take you around the path to get you there because that's how you need to go the steps, and that's just the way it is. I mean, you and I work together. We're different type guys. Yuri is an awesome salesperson. I'll give him that. He really is, and he did train me. But
Thank you. Thank you.
I had to use my skills to be successful because I can't mimic what he does. I couldn't do that. So the fact is, you have to take a person and help them get the best out of them. You show them the right way. Don't go. You show them right. Show them the right way. Show them by the book. But then let them, if they're in reason, add their own personality to it because then they'll be better. Because I can't do Yuri. And all you guys out there doing sales, look, Yuri is awesome. If he trains you, he's going to teach you everything you need to know. But you got to be you. You can't be him because you're going to do it not nearly as well. And that's just a final statement.
And now for a word from our sponsors. If you're a moving business owner, you may have already heard of Moversville, an email marketing service that helps moving companies increase, repeat, and referral business. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services that cater specifically to the moving industry. You can find companies that provide moving software, moving sales services, marketing services, moving equipment providers, and much, much more. Visit moversville.com today to learn more.
Right. And realistically, when I teach sales reps in general, usually as far as moving goes in general, I don't believe in a script when it
Yeah.
comes to the moving industry. I don't believe in that. Do
Right.
you start with one if you're not familiar with the industry? Yes,
Sure.
absolutely. Because you
Sure.
need to understand the parameters of a call. You need
Right.
to understand the type of questions that you need to ask in order to obtain the information that you need in order to provide an accurate quote,
Sure.
right? That's what you have to do through a specific process in order to do it right, right? So,
Right.
do you start if you're starting from scratch, which is frankly that's always been my preference. I prefer people that have never done moving before. When I hired, I look at them more so than I look at people that have moving company experience. I
Sure.
prefer to hire from scratch and teach from scratch. That's always been my preference, right? But at the end of the day, if you follow the way I do things, are you going to be successful? Are you going to make money? Yes. But at the same time, you need to make it your own
Yeah.
because you're not going to, like Mark said, I agree with that 100%. You can't do somebody else. You got to do you.
Right.
And whether you take what I teach, or whether you take what Mark teaches, or whether you take what anybody else teaches that's out there. Obviously, there's a lot of coaches and everybody else out there, right? You got to put your own spin on things and you got to make it your own. For some people, what I do is going to work perfectly, and they're
Yeah.
going to have the skill and ability to mimic what I do and be perfectly okay with that. But sometimes you got to put your own spin on it because at the end of the day, what I've learned is that when we're dealing with sales, we always have our type of clients,
Sure.
right? Every one of us, like after, especially after you've done it for a while, you're going to come to sooner or later, you're going to come to a realization that people that you're talking to, they fit the same mold.
Yeah.
Either they're smart asses, or they have a sense of humor, or they have something else that's going on, right? There's specific type of thing that tends to mesh well. If you take hundreds, maybe at this point, probably thousands of clients that I've booked over my years in the moving industry, uh, I'm 100% certain that 80% of them are probably going to fill a specific mold, right?
Sure,
So,
sure.
and I think that's true for any salesperson. So whatever you're being taught, you got to take it, but at the end of the day, you got to make it your own.
And
So
make it
when I did fundraising once upon a time before I got anywhere near moving, right? We were given information about a specific company or specific subject or articles that company put out. And based on those articles, we were coming up with our own distinct and focused pitches that allowed us to sell better. I think
sure.
the same applies to moving. I mean, you got to be real, you got to be you. You got
Yeah.
to do you because at the end of the day, you are going to be able to sell you better than anybody else.
Does your company need more creative marketing and ad campaigns to improve traffic and organic leads? Well, Moving Sales Professionals has a solution for you. We have partnered with social media marketing agency that has over 300 million views on their ads and videos across social media, and they have generated over $35 million for their clients over the last 10 years alone. Their services include content creation, social media ads, pay-per-click campaigns, website and funnel development, Google Ads, email marketing campaigns, lead generation, and much, much more. For a limited time only, they have discounted rates for their services. Sign up for a free consultation call with us via our Calendly link on our website or below this video.
You hit the key. You know what? When you're doing any type of sales, you got to trust the person you're buying from. Like in my business, current business, we give out samples. But if they don't trust the person giving the sample, I'm not going to eat some food from somebody I don't trust or I think is clean or whatever is going on. And the same goes to moving. You can't talk to the person and make them feel comfortable. They don't want your business. They don't want to work with you because that's the key in any business and moving, especially because it is such a high volume, such a stressful situation. When you're moving somebody's stuff and they're going across country, that's stressful. They got everything they own in their life. They got packed up in a truck going across country, and they got to trust you to get it there. And that is a lot. And you got to make them feel comfortable to do that. And that's you got to be you. I can't follow a script. Like the script was great when you first trained me, Yuri. I knew what to say, but until I learned how to put it in my voice, I wasn't successful.
Right. And that's absolutely fine. That's the way
Yeah, yeah,
that's the way that I believe it should be.
yeah,
You can be anybody can teach you, but at the end of the day, if you don't make it your own, you're never going to feel
yeah.
100% comfortable.
And that's what my book's about. When I wrote these books, it was about unlocking the potential in you. Because when you go out for many jobs, not just moving, any job, they give you a script. We're gonna do it just like they give you kind of a training guide, and it's great. It gives you some very basic things, but some people follow it like robots and they fail so badly. That was my goal, since that's what I do. Is I'm the challenge to unlock people to get them to their full potential. I had to break away from just the scripts. Let's do this, let's do that, do this. And that
Right.
has been successful for me.
So that's what I'm saying. So like you start with a script, that's something when you're learning whatever industry
Yeah,
that you're going into. But
yeah,
eventually you need
yeah.
to sound natural because if you're following the script your entire life, and don't get me wrong, there are people out there that can take a script and make it sound natural while even though they're following the script the whole entire time.
That's
But
you.
that's amount of people. No, that's not me.
Well,
The amount of people are those people are rare because usually you want to make it you don't want to sound robotic.
yes, okay. But you know what? I watched you and listened to you say the same thing for years, over and over to client after client. Now, maybe it's something you just memorized and was back of your head, but you would go through the the damages, what would it be, the cost. You had it memorized. Either you memorized it and you knew it by heart, or you use the same thing every time.
Well, I think once you're focused, once you got you built yourself s- like the structure of what you're doing, and I think there's got to be structure in everything to some sort. Once you have that structure, why deviate from something that's working for you?
No,
My
no, I
structure is not going to be the same as Mark's or somebody else or
no,
whatever.
no,
But
I
then
agree.
again, it might be. But it's also about how you deliver that structure.
Sure,
Even though
sure.
it's the same, each person is going to bring themselves into it. So at the end of the day, if
So,
it's working, why not? And yeah, I do say probably the same thing to every
so
single person
here's
I
the
talk
thing.
to.
So when I first learned, Yuri gave me verbiage to say, and it wasn't some script, but he kind of told me what I should have said. And it was kind of just him talking to me, being a friendly manager. Hey, this is what you got to say. This helps. And I watched him say it and use it. And like I said, I'm not being facetious when I say he could say it. And I think he said it sometimes in more than one language. He would say it,
Yeah,
but it
that
was
happened a few times.
but it was basically he was selling the same thing. And honestly, he meant it. It wasn't like he was making it up. This is going to be good for you because of this, and this. And it worked. And I watched for about 2 months. I was kind of clueless. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I'm just going through the motions. And after about a month or two, I started to pick up and figure out what was going on. And I got much better. And like I said, Yuri was phenomenal. He is absolutely one of the best salespeople you will ever meet. Yeah, because he's honest with you. He's going to tell you, if you're doing a move, and I heard him earlier when we first came on. Somebody was telling him all these type of things. He's like, "This is a 9 hour move, whether you like it or not. It's what it is, and that's what you got to do." A lot of people when they're booking sales they don't want to tell them the truth, but it's better to tell them up front. You got 9 hours to move here versus telling them you got 3 hours, and then they got a 9 hour bill because then you got problems. And that is what he was so good at. He estimated and said, "This is what it's got to be," because a lot of new movers, new guys doing these type of sales don't see, oh well, they got 12 boxes. They really got 30 boxes because they don't count the lamps, they don't count the clothes, they don't count all the things that they really do have. He was good at that. He was great at it, and that is why he's been successful at
Well, thank you. Before you know it, I'm going to start blushing here. Such, unsolicited praise. Thank you. But I think one of the things that we also that I mean that's the positive side of things. But then of course we also have to deal with unruly clients, which
it.
you deal with in your business, I deal with in my business, and we got to be able to take that without bursting, without telling them where to go, even though we really want to sometimes.
Yeah. So for me, I deal with a lot of store managers or regional managers that want certain expectations. I had one store, I won't give the location, it was in Virginia. That's about all I'm going to say. And every store has approximately 6 to 7 carts that give out samples in it on any given day. They wanted no more than two. Well, that contract came from their corporate office. It wasn't something that we could control. And they were disrespectful. They were throwing out things. They were just not happy. And so I spent weeks going in and out having conferences with them. And it's one of those things where it's like, you know what, let's try to make you happy. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spread those events out over couple weeks so you don't have 6 people in your store. I'm going to spread them out to make it better for you because your store is small. You can't manage these people blocking up lines. So let me spread them out so we get them done for you, but I still got to do them. So it's one of those things where you got to be the compromise. You got to be able to talk. You got to be able to see what their issue is and have some empathy for why they're upset, but also understand you got a job to do. And I'll tell you, in the moving world, it's difficult because they're so mad and so angry sometimes, they don't hear the truth. For
Right. And Mark specifically, and I know this because I've sat next to him for a couple of years, literally. And he is usually calm as all get up, right? He's like, oh, but I've seen him get hot a couple of
yeah,
times with some of these people,
yeah,
especially when it was a claim, especially when it was something that he talked to them about, and they try to claim that he did not tell him this, and he has, and I've seen him get hot. So
yeah,
it's very difficult to
yeah.
keep yourself in check. My guys usually laugh at me because they've seen me, and Mark is going to laugh now when he hears me say this. They've seen me go, ma'am, ma'am, ma'am,
Yeah,
ma'am, you need
definitely.
to calm down, ma'am. You're
Yeah,
yelling, ma'am. If you keep yelling, I'm gonna have to hang up, and then you're gonna call me back
you
when you
would.
come down. Ma'am, you're still yelling. I'm hanging up. Click.
That is the case. I've seen that happen numerous times. And generally, after they calm down and you can have a conversation with them, the thing about when you're in the moving business, we don't want anyone to be angry. We don't want the bad press. And we'll do what we can to help you. Look, there might be a general reason that you're upset, But if you can't talk to us where we can have a real conversation, we can't solve a problem for you. And
Right.
that's what the biggest issue is. Look, you have to be able to have a conversation respectfully versus yelling so I can tell you what I know and what I can do to help you possibly. Until they do that, as Yuri said, click.
Right, because ultimately it's like yelling
Yeah,
is not going to get you anywhere. And anybody that thinks that if they're yelling at a sales rep, now maybe it's different in some other industries, but I don't go for that. Like
no,
I'm not going to let my sales reps get abused because at
I'm,
the end of the day, honestly, that one conversation like that, if it's taken in a negative way, can
yeah,
affect that person for the rest of the day. And they're not good to me, they're not
right.
good to you, and they're
So
not good
true.
to the company that they're representing.
So true.
And it's like you need to get them out of that negative situation as quickly as possible. And the best thing to do is like don't let anybody yell at you. And if they start yelling at you, that's exactly what you're gonna do. Okay. Uh,
So I'm gonna tell
you
you.
need
Let
to
me
come
tell you.
down, call me back. Click.
You're hit on something that's exactly that just happened. I recall I got an earful from some woman. I don't know where she was from, and literally he came over and said, "Hey man, why don't you take a walk around the block? Get out of the building for a second. Get out because I don't know if I was shaking, but I was so pissed
Oh, you were
off.
hot.
So I was like, you got to be kidding me." She said everything she possibly could say to me, and it was like over, I don't know, $65 or something
Something
crazy
like
that
that.
made
Yeah,
probably
that's
two.
the funny part. You get the moves that people end up taking a lot more stuff. The move is like two, three, $4,000 more than the initial estimate, and they're
Yeah,
like, "Okay, I knew I had more," and you're
yeah,
like, "What?" And you're
yeah,
all prepared, right? You're like, you got your
yeah,
initial inventory, you got your final inventory, you're gearing up for a fight because you think
yeah,
you're about to get in there for, and they're like, "Okay, here's my
yeah,
credit card."
yeah.
And
It's
versus the other person that's like $20.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. That's the difference here.
We had a person that I'm not gonna name the company because I don't want to call it anything that came to the store for a $345 move. I'll never forget it. College student who was irate because it wasn't $300. Literally, and it was for some packing that we had to wrap some things in. And I told her, I don't know what that's going to be because we don't you can't tell me if you're gonna move your mirror or your TV on your own. You can't say, if you're gonna move it, we won't have to pack it. If it's there, we gotta pack it. And literally it was $45. And she came to the store and was irate. It was actually
Yeah, I find this amusing. And I know Mark is going to laugh at this one too, but the amusing thing is this. And I may not remember something that my wife told me this morning, but I'm going to remember some customer and their
yeah,
move that took place 5 years ago if they
I
call me
still do.
today.
I
It,
still
it's
do.
like, I don't know, it just comes out.
Comes
I
back.
suddenly remember things about their move that I've forgotten and stashed away 5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not even the big
It's
ones. It
weird.
could be anyone. It could be
Yeah.
any movie. It
Yeah.
could be any movie. It'll come back to your head because, if you're really doing and you're in it and you're involved with that person, you're listening. Because the key to this, when I did it, it was listening. I had to pay attention and hear what they were saying. And then I had to ask questions because if I didn't ask questions, I was going to miss something because they're telling me and they're walking around like I'm in my room right now, in my office here, and I might say I'm moving here, and I might name my four monitors, but then again, I might miss the extra desk over here, or I might miss the lamp over here. If I don't ask questions, if I do it unseen, you're going to have issues because they're not going to know the name those things. That's not what they do. You got to ask
Right.
those. You got to probe.
You gotta it's the same thing that's for any professional salesperson is gonna tell you. You as a sales rep, there are gonna be times where you need to take charge of the call. So
Yep.
this is part where you charge the call and you guide them through the process versus them guiding you. Because
Right.
if they're guiding you, you're not gonna get the full picture.
Right, right. And that's part of the issue about you also getting trust.
Yeah.
You gain that trust with them, but letting them talk to you, get those things out. Then you ask them questions, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't know that." And you're building that rapport with them, and that conversation, that whole time you're building that rapport, it's going to help you close that sale. Because the
Yeah.
more you communicate, the more you open, the more you ask questions, they're going to know that you're there to give them a fair and a reasonable estimate. If they
Right.
don't
And
think
you
that,
also manage any expectations ultimately.
yeah,
What
yeah,
are they going to expect on the day of the move?
yeah, well, you got to do that.
And of course you do that with your current business, Mark.
Well, you have to because like I said earlier, some clients thinking, "Oh, we're going to go in and our expectations is to boost sales." When I do a demo in a location, I'm looking to go from anywhere from 5 to 15% sales on those items or in that region. So if I lead with that, say, this is what we generally do based on the sales that you have in this store. Okay, this is what it looks like. The metrics look like. So when I do that, I let them know before we even start. Okay, if we're gonna demo Twinkies, all right. So you sell 9 boxes of Twinkie a day. If I demo them, you're gonna sell 13 boxes of demo Twinkies that day. That's gonna happen. I know that. Now you're also gonna have that residual sales where people come in over the next 2 weeks and still buy those Twinkies for what I did. So I can manage that and let them know what's going to happen and what they should expect. Now, on the other side, my employees, I have expectations and such I think they need to do as well. And so if they're not doing their job and they're not focused, they're not in there, they're not doing the sales, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then those numbers aren't hit. And then I have to deal with them and work with them to get them up to standard. So it's the client and the employee. You got to manage expectations on both sides.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But of course, we can talk about this for hours at a time. Obviously, we have a lot of things to catch up on
Oh
to,
yeah,
and we're
yeah,
not going to do that on this podcast. We already caught up on a lot of stuff. But
yeah,
Mark, thank you very much for joining me. And like I always say, the world moves on its own, so let the professionals move yours for you. Thank you
definitely.
for joining me, and we'll talk again soon.